In a few months, there will be a governor's election in the Garden State of New Jersey. Looking at the latest poll from Emerson College, there is a poll that shows the governor's favorable rating at just 40%, while incumbent President Donald Trump sits at a tied favorable rating in the state of New Jersey. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, your number one stop for all things polling and election analysis that you won't want to miss. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. By the way, there will be an update, a massive update to my website tomorrow, very soon. So make sure to stay tuned for that. I will be doing a video pretty much soft launching the website very soon. Looking at the battleground state of New Jersey, which is now considered a battleground, it is almost as Democrat as is Georgia on my 2028 perspective battleground map. So it is shifting in the Republican direction. In my 2028 tied national popular vote battlegrounds, it only shows up as a 4.5 point win for the generic Democrat nominee, given the massive shifts in the 2024 presidential election. In the state of New Jersey, Donald Trump managed to shift the northeastern parts of the state by a pretty significant amount. The most notable being Passaic County, which he shifted by 19 points in his direction, in a county that Joe Biden won by 16 points in 2020. He basically made this entire area very competitive. I mean, he basically flipped it by 3 points. He got 100,000 votes in this county. And we look here, Bergen County, Kamala Harris barely wins this county. It's a 13-point shift from 2020, as well as Morris County, Essex County, an 11-point shift there. Union County, huge shifts there. Hudson, an 18-point shift in Hudson. And Staten Island, which is where New York is, you see a 15-point shift there. Middlesex County, a 14-point shift there. Monmouth, 9-point shift. Somerset, 7 points. Atlantic County, 10 points, which he actually flipped into his column. And Cumberland County, which he also ended up flipping into his column as well. So these are humongous shifts in these areas here. And what's very interesting is the areas that he shifted the most have the most Hispanic population in the state, but you also have Catholics shifting in the Republican direction. You have working class voters shifting in that direction as well. So that is why you also had New Jersey being so competitive this time around. And looking at this poll with the governor's favorable rating, I mean, the Democratic nominee, the Democratic governor is actually term limited, so the incumbent isn't even running, which is not going to make it even worse for Democrats heading into the race. And Mikey Sherrill seems to be the favorite to win the nomination, but only with like a quarter of the vote, basically. And we see Jack Ciattarelli, who was the nominee last time, he's at 44% of the vote. And when we go back to 2021 and we look at his performance there, we can see that he only lost the state by 3.2%. Like, it was more competitive than what it was in 2024. It seems that this huge shift happened in the state between 2020 and 2021. This huge shift happened in New Jersey very quickly. And you can see here, I mean, it was super duper close. Now, you are going to have some more college educated demographics. So like Passaic County will probably go Democrat. Certain places will probably still break Democrat, but I would classify this race as a pure toss-up in 2025, given its previous result, given the result in the 2024 election, and as well as the favorable rating of the incumbent governor. I mean, he sits at a 40% job approval rating, while 45% disapprove of the job he is doing, 15% or neutral. While Donald Trump has a tied favorable rating at 47% approved to 47% disapprove, and 6 are neutral. What's very fascinating is that when you go back to September of 2020, his net favorable in the state was minus 18. So from 2020, where Biden won the state by 16 points, I mean, he killed it in 16. He did very well in New Jersey in 2016. And even in like 2016, Clinton won the state by 14 points. So it was like a massive win. Obama won it by 18 in 2012, won it by 16 in 2008. Like, I mean, he was just racking up these huge victories. I mean, Kerry was the last one where it was like genuinely a pretty competitive state. This was the last time New Jersey had ended up being somewhat competitive. And you can see some similar shifts, here. So yeah, that was the last time it was actually pretty competitive. But we look now to 2024, and it's even closer than what it was in 2004. And Passaic ended up flipping, Atlantic ended up flipping, Morris, Bergen was super close. So you have these counties shifting massively due to working class support, as well as Hispanic voters moving to the right. And because of how poorly the governor is doing, in his job favorable, and the fact that President Trump's favorable rating is tied in the state, not only does it spell a good sign for the governor's race for Republicans in 2024, you may potentially be able to put this in the toss-up category for 2024. Now, I will say this. If Pennsylvania were to go Democrat in 2028, New Jersey will not be a battleground state. It'll be a likely state, like it may be under 10 points, but it won't end up being a swing state at all. If the Republican improves on Trump's margin in the state of Pennsylvania, that's when you could expect a potential flip in the state of New Jersey, because the entire Philadelphia area, this whole, tri-state area here is what ended up shifting quite a bit in 2024. I mean, you even look at Pennsylvania, and you look at the shifts in Pennsylvania, they were mostly on the eastern part of the state. That's where like a lot of the shifts ended up happening, including Monroe, which he flipped from Biden. He got close in Lackawanna County, Luzerne County, he flipped it by quite a bit. So, you do have minor shifts in some of these places here, very, very little shifts in the western part of the state, but the places where basically it shifted the most was in these areas over here, which was this eastern part of the country here. This is where you had the biggest shifts. And even like in Virginia, you had some pretty crazy shifts on the map here. I mean, you had a 13-point shift in Massens Park, Fairfax, a 7-point shift, Mansas, you had a 9-point shift there. Like you had these crazy six. Alexandria, you had like a 6-point shift. Prince William, 9 points. Loudoun County, 9 points. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, and you even have like, like District of Columbia, you had it shift like 2 points to the right even. And like Calvert County was like a pretty large shifting Republican area. Like these areas shifted heavily in Republicans' favor. The reason why they were able to hold up was because the rural areas actually didn't even shift as much, and you saw some like suburban areas in the state actually end up shifting into Democratic hands. So that's why you kind of had some stagnation in the state, and that's why it didn't nearly shift as much as people actually thought it was going to this time around. And so given those shifts, in that area, including the tri-state area of Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey, I do expect, a potential flip, in 2020, in 2025, depending on how the polling looks, depending on how some of the modeling goes, when we get there. But, depending on how close this result is, it will be a litmus test to see how competitive this state will be in 2028. And if the New Jersey governorship flips in 2025, and we look at the demographics and see who's making that happen, it's very possible that you may have a pretty competitive New Jersey heading into the 2028 presidential election. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. I will see you guys in the next video.